Section 37 of Library Essays, Papers Related to the Work of Public Libraries. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Ted Leinhart. Library Essays, Papers Related to the Work of Public Libraries by Arthur Elmore Bostwick. Luck in the Library, Part 2. Somewhat similar to failures of this sort are those that arise from lack of initiative. Here I think our training is somewhat at fault. I can almost pick out at sight the library assistants whose training has been in schools where obedience has been the chief thing inculcated, the following of rules and formulas, the reverence for standards and authority. They are of the greatest value in certain positions, but they cannot advance far. They are afraid to go beyond the beaten path, to take chances, not, as in the case just considered, because they distrust themselves or their judgment, but because they have been trained not to adventure. Now, adventuring is the only way in which mankind has ever got anywhere. There are conditions in which chance-taking is criminal, as it usually is when much is staked for little. The engineer who risks the lives of a trainload of passengers in order that he may avoid losing a minute on schedule time is a criminal chance-taker. He may have done it once before with success, and the belief that he is lucky may induce him to do it again. The trouble with the overcautious worker is that because he feels that this kind of adventuring is wrong, it is also wrong for him to stake his personal comfort against a possible great advance in the quality of service that he is doing. Perhaps I have put it awkwardly. It is not so much personal comfort that is at stake, though that is an element, as the feeling that doing things well, in the way that we have always done them, is better than disorganizing them for the purpose of shuffling them into a better combination. I have, on more than one occasion, in library school lectures, urged this point of view, and I have advised more stimulation to venturesomeness, less pointing out of old paths, and more opportunities to break new ones. No one ever reached a new place by following an old path. The path breakers may be lucky or unlucky. I agree that the unlucky, the congenital blunderers, ought to be kept out of the adventuring class. But how shall we tell who they are except by trying? I have thought, possibly without justification, that I have detected a slight attitude of disapproval on the part of library school authorities when such advice as this has been given. Let the student first learn the standards, to do things by rule, to obey authority, then he can branch out into initiative. But can he? My fear, somewhat justified by experience, is that he cannot. The standards must be taught. The rules must be known and followed. But if, along with this, there is no stimulation to initiative and the continual instillment of a feeling that progress depends on the divine curiosity of the explorer, we shall be training only routine workers, and for our advances we shall have to depend on those whom we stigmatize as untrained. They will be the lucky ones. Here are cases where luck is a function of attitudes of mind and may be reversed if a change can be made in that attitude. There are others such. Take, for instance, the case of the grouchy man, the man who has a quarrel with the world. He is sure that he is unlucky, and sure enough, he is. He does not expect to be advanced, and no one would think of advancing him. His attitude and its natural results react on each other until he becomes a confirmed misanthrope. Then there is the man without interest in what he is doing. Who would be so foolish as to entrust an important task to a man who, it is quite evident, does not care whether it is done well or ill, or whether it is done at all? These persons betray their lack of interest in ways that are familiar to us all. They utterly lack initiative, but for other reasons than the persons whose cases have been discussed above. They have no objections to adventure, but a venture presupposes interest. No one ever set out to find the North Pole who is utterly indifferent to its location or the character of its surroundings. All true success is built on a foundation of lively interest. Hence, persons of this sort are peculiarly unlucky. They watch subordinates and newcomers pass them in the race, and they are perfectly certain that this is due to favoritism or to luck. They themselves are unlucky, and of course they will always remain so, unless they can alter their neutral attitude. In thinking over the lack of initiative of which I have complained above, and the failure of our training to supply it, it occurs to me that we carry this lack over into our work. We are apt to complain of the difficulty of finding persons who are fitted for positions of command and responsibility. What do we do to elicit the qualities that make one fit for such posts? We have in our own library a system of efficiency reports, which are filled out by department heads yearly, one for each assistant. These give needed information about the work of members of the staff, and they also sometimes reveal quite clearly the state of mind of those who make them out. Two of the questions are, in what did the assistant fall short, and what did you like most about the assistant? It strikes me, on running over these reports, as I have just done, that the qualities most valued when present and most lamented when absent are those of a good subordinate. The assistant who goes quietly, efficiently, and quickly about doing what she is told to do is pleasant about it and does not shirk. Here are some of the things that our department heads like best: earnestness, industry, and intelligence; alertness, readiness to take suggestion; excellent standards of work; close application to business; absolute dependability; persistence; excellent worker, steady, reliable; enthusiasm and eagerness to learn; close attention to business; tenacity and faith in herself; minds her own business; fine spirit in work; obliging, willing, and ready service; industry and intelligence; general information; calm, cheerful nature; honesty of purpose; patience under criticism; politeness and willingness to oblige; loyalty, faithfulness, and goodness; accuracy and systematic methods; neat and ambitious. All these things are fine, I agree, but there is not one of them that suggests the possibility of advancement to a position of command where administrative ability and initiative will count. I do not suggest that these qualities are absent, but I think the record shows that we are not on the lookout for them, and possibly do not value them as we ought. Only once in a while do I find a suggestion that a tendency toward such qualities is of interest, as when one assistant is commended for independence and good judgment, and another for resourcefulness. And when we come to the weak points reported, the same facts stand out. Here are some of them: lack of accuracy in system; too sensitive; too reserved; often thoughtless; not sufficiently painstaking; too deliberate; tries to work too fast; lack of poise; rather slow; hesitates to ask for needed help; lack of system; impractical and idealistic; not very responsive; so eager that she is a bit aggressive at times. Here, too, the deficiencies reported are predominantly those that would make a bad subordinate, although here and there we may detect one of the other kind. For instance, does not know how to find and develop the best in her assistants; not self-reliant; disinclined to assume responsibility. These are all faults of poor executives. We shall never be able to pick good officers if we do not know how to detect in our privates the qualities that would fit them to command, and how to encourage the development of such qualities when there is anything on which to base it. Luck may not only be in but of the library. The whole institution may be in the lucky or unlucky class. I think you have known both kinds. The former seem to prosper, to do good work, and to win golden opinions by the very fact of their existence. The latter have small appropriations, a poor standing in the community, and are finally destroyed by fire. Now, personal ill luck is and remains personal, but the ill luck of an institution may be of various kinds. It may reside in a person or persons, or in a system, or in a building, or in all three. If the Jonestown Public Library is unlucky, the ill luck may be that of its librarian, or of his staff, or he may be operating an unlucky system, or his building may be unlucky. I am an especial believer in unlucky buildings. Some there are in which it appears to be as impossible to run a successful library as it would be to grow vegetables in an ash bin. Sometimes one can pick out the trouble with half an eye, although the same degree of astuteness seems to have been beyond the architect, or the board, or the librarian who cooperated to produce it. But in many cases we know the trouble only by its fruits. Its roots are hidden, and the best we can do is to recognize that the library's ill luck comes from an unlucky building, and leave it at that. There are so many sources of this kind of general library ill luck that it is a wonder we do not see more unlucky libraries. There are not so very many lucky ones either, except so far as this proceeds from the possession of a staff whose members are individually lucky. The statistician knows that the way to eliminate chance is to multiply instances. The insurance actuary does not know when you will die, but he knows that of 1,000,000 men of your age, very nearly so many will die within the next year. It is because he deals with a large number of cases that he can put his system on a business footing. There may be only one white ball in a bushel of black ones. You might conceivably draw that white ball at the first trial, but if you did, you would probably refer to it as luck. If, however, you could multiply the number of trials, you would bring up the white ball sooner or later. There may be only one good way of accomplishing a result among thousands of bad ones. If you should hit on the right one at the first trial, you would be lucky. But luck or no luck, you will get it if you keep on long enough. Patience is always a winner in the long run. This is the way in which much of our knowledge is collected. Edison found the right substance for his first carbon filament by sending for all sorts of materials from all over the world, carbonizing them and trying them out. The right one proved to be a kind of bamboo. If Edison had hit on this at the first trial, it would have been so lucky a chance as almost to be counted a miracle. As it was, he eliminated chance by multiplication. Nothing annoys an executive so much as to be told that the adoption of this or that course will result in a specified way, when no one has ever tried it. This was a common attitude in the time of Galileo, when the idea that anything could be found out by observation or experiment was regarded as a public scandal. That was the time when a man refused to look through the newly invented telescope for fear that he might see something contrary to the teachings of Aristotle. These people are not all dead by any means. I have heard them assert that a proposed change would ruin the library and then object to trying it because they were afraid the result would be contrary to their own predictions. The medieval philosophers at least had Aristotle to fall back on. Their modern successors would appear to be posing as Aristotles themselves. A housemaid recently said to her mistress, "I've told everybody today you weren't at home. Now don't sit in the window and make me a liar." No discovery, no falsehood, you see. So if we librarians can be prevented from trying experiments, the false predictions of some of our advisors will not be false in their own eyes, simply because they will not be exposed. My advice to librarians, and to everyone else, is to keep on trying experiments. If you get a satisfactory result the first time, you may stop and ascribe it, if you please, to your good luck. If the result is unsatisfactory, however, you need not stand pat on your ill luck. If at first you don't succeed, try again. There is more philosophy in that than in all Aristotle. It is also a practical exposition of the doctrine of chances. Somewhere is the combination that you want. You will find it if you only keep on long enough. Libraries that are afraid of being victimized by chance, or, as we may put it, becoming martyrs to bad luck, should ponder somewhat more closely the possibilities of relief from insurance. Of course, here I am using the word luck in its simpler meaning of unforeseen occurrence. Take the case of the library that suffers from the fact that an influential member of the committee that fixes the amount of its annual appropriation has eaten something indigestible for breakfast. Such an unforeseeable occurrence, such a piece of bad luck, might cost a library anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000, according to the usual size of its appropriation. Equally injurious might be the illness of the president of the board, throwing upon an incompetent member the duty of presenting the library's claims and needs. It is surely unjust that a public service institution should be at the mercy of such trivial chances. In some states, including my own, the library is removed from such ill luck as this by a statutory provision fixing its public income, subject to proper checks and taking away the ability of an individual's illness or indisposition to lower it. But where this ill chance is still in its baleful working order, why should not the library be protected against it by insurance? Such protection would be analogous to the corporation insurance taken out by large industrial companies to offset the loss likely to result from the death of an officer on whose administrative ability much of the company's earning power depends, or to the payment of death duties by insurance, now being advocated by many companies and adopted on a huge scale by Mr. J.P. Morgan. Insurance is the great equalizer. It multiplies instances, enlarges the field of possibilities, and abolishes ill luck. We are availing ourselves of it in case of possible damage by fire or storm, or of loss through our liability as employers. We may in future use it to cut out chance and luck in other fields also, and to make our resources so dependable that we may devote to the extension and betterment of service the ingenuity now often spent solely in devising means to get along. I am afraid that you will compare this address very unfavorably with the celebrated chapter on snakes in Iceland, because whereas the author of that was able to announce the non-existence of his subject in 6 words, it has taken me a good many thousand. You will do me an injustice, however, if you think that I have simply been demonstrating the non-existence of luck. I believe that when we say a man is lucky, we mean something definite, and that thing surely has an existence. It may not be the goddess Fortuna, or her modern successor, but it is very real, and it is worth investigating and taking into account. If you are told that one of your assistants is lucky, do not laugh it away. Find out the facts, and if they indicate that she is unusually successful in what she undertakes, be thankful that you have a lucky person on your staff. Cherish her and promote her, and if you can find such a person outside of your library with the other necessary qualifications, prefer him or her in making an appointment to one of the unlucky variety. It is of the lucky kind that the world's geniuses are made. Inventors like Bell, Edison, and Marconi, captains of industry like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Henry Ford, soldiers like Napoleon, Grant, and Moltke, statesmen like Lincoln, Gladstone, and Bismarck, poets like Shakespeare, Dante, and Goethe. We have had too few of these in the library profession. They were all lucky, and what we need, especially in the present emergency, is plenty of luck in the library. End of section 37.